Number 1 at 11, King 5 Television. And now, with all the news for Western Washington, Lori Matsukawa and David Curley, with Shelley Monahan, weather, and Carlos Del Valle, sports. This is King 5 News at 11.
Last year, teachers stormed the state capitol to get their raises, and with a deficit this year, they may have to do the same thing in order to get those raises. And that might even not be enough. Good evening.
State lawmakers go back to work tomorrow, and a preview of the action in Olympia is our top story tonight. We'll tell you what's on their agenda, and we'll take a closer look at the educational issues certain to cause problems for lawmakers.
Think about buying the Mariners 9 times. That's how short this state's budget is, $900 million. It's the major issue facing the legislature in an election year. Check trunk. Washington State plans to spend nearly $16 billion this year to train police officers, build roads, and provide hundreds of other services. The problem is that the state is nearly $1 billion short of cash, partly because of the recession. Governor Booth Gardner wants to solve that budget gap by cutting back on some programs, raising some taxes, using all the rainy day account, $260 million, and cutting the pay raise set for teachers and state workers. But both Democrats and Republicans in the legislature don't like all of that plan. Along with dealing with the budget, lawmakers have another proposal from the governor to consider.
This state, your state, is spending $850 million more on health care this biennium than we did last biennium.
The governor wants universal health care. Employers would have to give workers health insurance or pay into a state plan, which would make sure every citizen can see a doctor. Lawmakers will also tinker with education reform, transportation, and campaign finances, all in a year in which most of the lawmakers are up for re-election. And when two of the most powerful men in Olympia, Democratic House Speaker Joe King and Republican Senator Dan McDonald, are running for governor. So expect even more politics than normal during this session. Lawmakers want to end within 60 days so they can hit the campaign trail.
One of the biggest challenges for lawmakers will be deciding how to handle the cost of education and promised pay raises to teachers. Our top story coverage continues in Tumwater, where King 5's Julie Francavilla reports teachers from the southwestern part of the state are holding a candlelight vigil in hopes of rousing public support for teachers and for education.
This overpass on I-5 is the stage for teachers with a message.
We can't let the flame of education go out. And we just wanted to remind the legislators as they were heading toward Olympia that please don't forget us, that it's real important that they remember kids.
And kids are some of the vigil keepers here, students who want the legislature and the governor to listen.
I'm trying to get across that education is more important than a lot of other things that they're spending money on, and that they should spend more money on education.
But instead of spending more, the plan is to spend less. In hopes of closing the budget deficit, Governor Booth Gardner wants to renege on his promise to give teachers a 3.5% pay increase. Legislators are expected to go back on the promise for pay raises as well, a move that would save $78 million. Still, the state teachers union says it will fight education cuts to the bitter end. Last April, teachers went on a 3-week strike, holding up graduation at most Western Washington schools. Teachers here say they don't know if this year's fight over money will reach the point of a strike. What they do know is they'll do everything they can for quality education. In Tumwater, Julie Francavilla, King 5 News.
Last year, it took a special legislative session to solve this teacher pay issue.
Lori, in other news tonight, traffic was backed up on I-5 this evening for an hour and a half, the result of a fatal car accident. One person died, another is in critical condition, and 4 others remain in serious condition tonight. They were taken to hospitals in Centralia and Olympia. The accident happened just before 6. The 4 cars smashed head-on into another car, which had crossed the center divider 17 miles south of Olympia. The interstate was closed in both directions as crews cleared the scene. Traffic was back to normal by 9 o'clock tonight.
A 2.5-year-old boy is in critical condition tonight after he almost drowned in Clark Creek near Puyallup. The little boy was riding his bicycle down the steep slope of Clark Creek when he fell in. A neighbor rescued him about 200 yards downstream and started CPR. The boy was taken to Tacoma's Mary Bridge Children's Hospital.
A 44-year-old security guard is scheduled to be arraigned tomorrow on charges he murdered his former wife. Charles Graves was arrested last night after Renton police received tips from the public. Saturday morning, 44-year-old Linda Bradley was shot to death while on the phone with a 911 operator. She told police her ex-husband was shooting his way into her home.
The neighbors called immediately. She called immediately. My officers were in the area and close. It just happened so fast. I don't think there was time for anybody to prevent this.
Linda Bradley had filed for a restraining order to keep her ex-husband away, but it hadn't yet been served. An autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow on the body of 28-year-old Casey Homegun. Homegun was found last night on Capitol Hill in Seattle. A van owner found the body in the back of his van. Police have made no arrests in this case.
The nation's stalling economy is hurting President Bush in the polls, but many believe he will still be reelected. For the first time, a CNN USA Today poll conducted by the Gallup organization shows Mr. Bush's approval rating slipping below the 50% mark. The president's highest approval rating, 89%, just after the Gulf War, has since slipped to 46%. And if pitted against an unspecified Democrat, the poll shows the president in a statistical dead heat to hold his office. The president knows all too well that his handling of the economy is partly to blame.
And yes, these are tough times. And yes, there are layoffs. And many families are having a rough go of it.
In fact, 3/4 of those polled say they disapprove of the way the president is handling the economy.
Unlike Ronald Reagan, Bush doesn't have a strong base of true believers that he can fall back on. If Bush wants to keep his coalition together, he's got to turn the economy around.
The president and vice president are promising to do something. What they plan to do isn't exactly clear. Reaction to the president's trade mission in Japan has been mostly critical, with many saying it won't improve things in the United States. But among Republicans, the president remains the clear favorite. And as a whole, 2 out of 3 of those polled say they think President Bush will serve another term. President Bush speaks tomorrow in Kansas City to the American Farm Bureau Federation, whose members may be critical of his inability to break down trade barriers in countries like Japan. He goes to New Hampshire on Wednesday, where unemployment is 3 times higher than the last time he campaigned there in 1988.
Prices have risen, food remains in short supply in Russia, and pro-communist anti-Yeltsin sentiment appears to be on the rise. Thousands demonstrated outside the Kremlin today to protest the newly formed Commonwealth of Independent States and Russian President Boris Yeltsin. The communist supporters are demanding prices be returned to earlier levels, which were subsidized by the government. They also want to bring back communist leadership.
Some outrage tonight to the death sentences handed down to 3 Miami residents by Cuba's courts. Demonstrators in Miami's Cuban exile community say they don't believe Cuba's case against 3 men convicted of terrorism and sentenced to death by firing squad. Cuba's leader, Fidel Castro, may be trying to use the men to distract his people from the country's real problem, a crumbling economy. In the Florida Everglades, Cuban exiles trained to free their former homeland from socialism. The threatened executions have made them more determined to succeed.
There has been a great response. More people are in our camp than ever before. Recruits are coming to our offices in greater numbers. And in general, anti-Castro paramilitary organizations are receiving great support.
No one knows when the executions will be carried out, although Cuba's highest court will review the case.
Pre-trial motions in the Jeffrey Dahmer case begin tomorrow in Milwaukee. Dahmer is charged in the mutilation deaths of 15 people. He's admitted to murdering 17 men and teenagers since 1978. Dahmer was arrested last July after police found the remains of 11 victims inside his apartment. Under Wisconsin law, a defendant can only claim insanity after a conviction. The trial is scheduled to begin the 27th of this month.
Briefly, in other news-making headlines tonight, 3 American drug agents were killed in a helicopter crash in the Peruvian jungle. U.S. Embassy officials say the men were helping the Peruvian government fight the cocaine war. The chopper went down while trying to rescue another downed helicopter. Rescue crews near San Francisco are still searching for 5 people aboard a helicopter that crashed yesterday. Searchers found pieces of the helicopter's wreckage in the Carquinez Strait, located 25 miles north of the city by the bay. But none of the passengers have been found. Thick fog and rough conditions are slowing the search. In Texas, a San Antonio man is dead after being buried alive in a silo of powdered cement. 37-year-old Robert Alvarez crawled into the silo to break up the cement when he slipped and sank into the quicksand-like mixture. Rescue crews spent nearly 2 hours trying to save the man from suffocating in the cement. And in New York, friends and family mourned the 9 people trampled to death last month at a celebrity basketball game. The place where the people were killed was chosen for the memorial service. College officials and police are accused of negligence. New York City has not yet completed its investigation.
Coming up next on King 5 News, hundreds of people showed up for a housewarming in Madison Park today.
When you just gotta rise.
But this is no ordinary house, it's a haven. We'll tell you why.
And one technique for restoring lost hair is shocking to some men in Arizona. We'll explain when King 5 News returns.
People with AIDS often have few options for health care. They may be too sick to take care of themselves and can't find room in a hospital. That's why local AIDS activists are so pleased with today's opening of the Bailey Boucher House in Madison Park. The building is equipped with 35 beds and staffed by nurses trained in AIDS care. It's the first building of its kind in the country.
Cost is about a third of a hospital day, which is why the state people are so economically motivated to support the project.
The early recognition of the special care needs for people living with AIDS, the many of thousands of you who helped to build this home, and the pride with which we stand here today are all testament to the fact that bigotry, scarce resources, and the lack of a broad-based community support are not inevitable components of the AIDS pandemic.
The first patients will be able to move in a few months. 3 years ago, 21,000 people died of AIDS in this country. Cardiovascular diseases claimed that many lives in just 8 days that year. Heart disease remains the #1 killer in this nation. Half of the deaths in the U.S. are traced to cardiovascular disease, but there is good news in the annual report of the Heart Association. The death rate is lower than it was 30 years ago in this country.
That doesn't mean that we have less heart disease in the country. In fact, what's happening is that we're identifying people much earlier because of more sophisticated tools and treating them.
It is better treatment and drugs, which are partially credited with lowering the death rate, as well as lifestyle changes, less fat in our diets and fewer smokers. The U.S. rates about in the middle of the international statistics, which were released by the Heart Association. Japan, with its low-fat diet, is #1. Heart disease in this country costs $100 billion every year.
David, ways to treat baldness often make headlines, but an old treatment is now getting new attention. Sylvester Pitson invented what he calls sonotherapy. His theory is that baldness is caused by a tight scalp, so his remedy is to loosen it. Sonotherapy is a mixture of mini shocks and deep massage.
I noticed a rapid decrease in the amount of hair I was losing, and at that time I was just happy to maintain, but then I noticed a regrowth and a revitalization.
The procedure is patented but not yet approved by the government. The demand for more telephone numbers in our state has forced U.S. West to make some changes in the way you make long-distance calls in Western Washington. Starting today, in addition to dialing a 1 before a long-distance phone number, you'll have to dial the area code 206 as well. If you forget, you'll get a message. It'll tell you to please try again.
I'm sorry. If you are making a long-distance or operator-assisted call, you must first dial a 1 or 0 plus the area code and the number. Please try your call again.
The phone number change comes as the result of the state's growing population, the popularity of cellular phones, and other technology. U.S. West says this move will provide more than 1 million additional phone numbers in Washington.
Coming up later on King 5 News, demolition crews cleared the way for a new sports arena today in Cleveland.
When it was all over, this is what was left. But when you see what it looked like as they blasted it, you'll think you're watching something created for Hollywood.
Hollywood wants to shoot a movie with rain. Should they come to the Northwest this week?
This is the place. You got it. Come on down. We'll take a look at our Monday outlook and talk about the path conditions right after this. Good evening for this Sunday. Currently mostly cloudy skies here in Seattle and 42 degrees of temperature. 38 degrees now in Tacoma. Light rain showers and your winds are calm. Everett, mostly cloudy skies for you. Winds from the southeast at 6 miles an hour. and a temperature of 41. Looking at the national scene, if by chance you're catching an early morning flight out of town, expect snow over the northern, central, and southern Rockies. Flying into Denver's Stapleton Airport, they're expecting some snow showers tomorrow. Also expecting snow if you're flying further east into Chicago. Showers and thunder showers from parts of Texas all the way up the Atlantic seaboard. Hey, speaking of that snow, one of the hardest hit areas today and again tomorrow will be parts of Arizona. They've had extremely heavy snow over the southern Rockies this weekend. They're expecting more snow the next few days as a series of storm systems pass through that part of the country. So if you were looking for some good places to ski, head south. For us, our own ski conditions are excellent as well. We've had some scattered light snow showers over our own mountains the last 2 days. What's happening, we're under the effects of a ridge of high pressure, but it's a very weak ridge of high pressure. Frontal systems will continue to move out of the Gulf of Alaska, the brunt of them passing to the north of us into British Columbia. But you can see what's happened. Some of the cloud cover is breaking off, giving us some cloud cover here in Washington and just a few light showers. Those of you up in Bellingham, for example, you've seen light showers off and on all day long. Now in Tacoma, we're receiving reports of light showers. Any precipitation we do see out of these systems will be very, very light and very scattered. So tonight, look for mostly cloudy skies, showers here and there, kind of a hit and miss type of situation. Temperatures will be in the mid and upper 30s. Tomorrow, we're looking at scattered showers in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy skies tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures running in the upper 40s. Along the coast, you too looking at some morning showers with partly cloudy skies in the afternoon. East side of the state, expecting partly sunny skies, a few snow flurries in that northeastern corner. Spokane had a low this morning of 14 degrees. North of Spokane, Colville with a morning low of 13. So continuing to see some very chilly temperatures throughout the east side of the state. Over the mountains tonight, mixed rain and snow, mainly that to the north. The snow level at 3,000 feet. Tomorrow, looking for some scattered snow flurries in the morning hours, otherwise mostly cloudy skies. The snow level at 4,500 feet. Should be some pretty good ski conditions tomorrow. Temperatures running in the low and mid 30s. Extended forecast by Monday afternoon. We are expecting partly cloudy skies. Tuesday, in between storm systems. Late Wednesday afternoon and evening, another one moving in, giving us some rain Wednesday night and Thursday, and then Friday, in between systems. So as you can see, yes, it's that typical hit and miss kind of forecast. Daytime highs staying in the upper 40s and low 50s. So all in all, not too bad. Snoqualmie Pass reporting barren, wet conditions. The past conditions very, very good.
I think I've decided if I've seen the sun at least once a week, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing okay. Hey, it's still January. We've got a ways to go.
Thanks, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Well, neither snow nor cold could keep some very determined people away from Lake Sammamish State Park tonight. People line their vehicles up to get picnic permits for the upcoming year. The permits are free, but there are a lot more groups wanting them than there are picnic sites. The permit office opens officially tomorrow morning.
Some good news about gas prices tonight. A survey from across the country shows gasoline prices to be at their lowest level in nearly a year. The national average is $1.19 per gallon. Prices, of course, were high a year ago as we were getting ready for the Gulf War. Drew Soicher's up next with sports. The Lions tried to roar, but the Redskins are going to the Super Bowl. All the conference championship highlights are coming up.
And the players on Devry's team scored 141 points, and it wasn't nearly enough to win. Drew will tell us about this strange college score when King 5 News continues. Drew Soicher in for Carlos Del Valle tonight.
A couple of East Coast teams will be going to the Midwest to play the Super Bowl.
And for those of you playing the home game, it's Super Bowl XXVI. It's 26. Super Sunday is all set 2 weeks from today at the Hubert Horatio Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Redskins will meet the Bills. Washington is a 6-point favorite, and rightfully so. They have the best team and the best band.
I'm so emotionally drained right now. I don't know how to act, and a lot of us don't know how to act. It's the first time we've been in this situation, so it'll probably hit me a little later on tonight, and I'll jump out of bed and start grabbing my wife and hollering and screaming and saying how happy we are.
The AFC game wasn't supposed to be much closer, but it was. The Bills are heading to the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. They beat the Broncos today in Buffalo. New strategy, rub Ben Gay all over yourself and nobody will get close to you. The Bills and Broncos played a scoreless first half. Denver's David Treadwell missed 3 different field goal attempts, including 2 that hit the upright. Oh, boy. Still scoreless. Late third quarter, John Elway's back to pass.
Middle screen, it's intercepted by Bailey. Carlton Bailey, touchdown!
He returned it 13 yards. It's the only touchdown the Bills scored all day. Denver finally got on the board with under 2 minutes to go. Down 10-zip, backup quarterback Gary Kubiak takes it in, and suddenly it's a 3-point game. The onside kick worked. The Broncos have a chance to win it, but Kubiak's pass to Steve Sewell, fumble! Buffalo recovers, and they win the AFC Championship game by a final score of 10-7.
This is probably the best team that we played all year. We knew it was going to go down to the wire, but we knew we had to play 64 minutes, and we'd come out on top one way or another.
You can't give enough credit to our defense. They hung in there against the number one offense in the league and just played unbelievable. And we're just offensively disappointed that we couldn't put some points on the board.
Did somebody say put some points on the board? Okay. Troy State, 258. DeVry Institute, 141. It's a basketball score. There is nothing wrong with your television set. It really happened. In Alabama, the Troy State Trojans broke the NC2A Division II record for points in a game with 258. The combined total of 399 is also a new record. DeVry Institute is a computer school. None of their players have futures in professional basketball, but Microsoft, look out!
Because you can't score this amount of points unless you have enough attempts. And you have to have a fast tempo to get enough attempts to have a phenomenal score like this.
Believe it or not, the leading scorer had only 42 points, 258 to 141, Troy State. Only one game tonight from the top 25. USC beat Arizona State 69-64. Maybe Troy State should be ranked number one. The Sonics finish up a 3-game road trip tomorrow night in Los Angeles at the Clip Joint. A 3-game homestand begins on Tuesday. Only one game on the NBA menu tonight. The Lakers overcame a 14-point deficit and beat the Magic. Check out Sedale 3, shaking and baking, hops and pops, and it drops. 112-99 Lakers. Steve Elkington won the Tournament of Champions golf tournament today down in Carlsbad, California. That's the first stop on the 1992 PGA Tour. Elkington edged out Brad Faxon on the first hole of sudden death. Did somebody say sudden death? Boxing tonight from Atlantic City, where heavyweight Carl the Truth Williams knocked out Marshall Tillman in round 2.
Showing you that he can make a competitive bout here. Wow. Just like that.
Whoa. Tillman did manage to get up, but Williams finished him off just a few seconds later. So you say you'd like to grow up to be a goaltender in the National Hockey League. Think again. Meet Clint Malarchuk. He's the goalie for the Buffalo Sabres, and he's got Excedrin headache number 10. How come?
First shift to the second period. Great shot. Save on and hit Malarchuk in the mask. Oh, man.
Malarchuk was shaken up, stayed in the game, and the Sabres beat the Rangers 6-3. Can you believe that until about 1950, goalies didn't even wear masks in the National Hockey League? The first to try one was a guy by the name of Jacques Plante with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he was considered a sissy. Now he's considered a genius.
Anybody who plays goalie is not a sissy.
Could you imagine? No mask?
I want to talk about this DeVry Institute Troy State game. What, was the audience getting whiplash from doing this?
Well, first of all, there was only about 6 people in the audience. But if you like to talk defensive basketball, don't mess with these guys. It almost looked as if they decided before the game started, we're going to break a record tonight, don't play any defense. So it worked.
Could you sing a little more of that song for us, the Redskins?
Hail to the Redskins.
No, don't encourage him, please.
Well, we want to show you some pictures from Cleveland tonight where a couple of sports teams are bringing down the house. Before workers break ground on a new stadium for the Indians and the Cavaliers, a storage building had to come down. So they blasted it today. The new stadium is expected to cost $400 million. Love those implosions. Not much news, but great pictures to show you.
Everyone stays up late just to watch those. They really do. We're going to take a look now at the extended weather with Shelley Monahan.
On again, off again as far as the showers are concerned. Tomorrow morning for your commute, expect a few scattered showers early on. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies Monday afternoon. Tuesday for our extended forecast looks good. And then it starts all over again Wednesday afternoon with rain. So kind of on again, off again. Should be some excellent skiing, and the past conditions are in good shape, too.
Get your boards ready, huh?
Yeah, ready to go.
Thanks, Shelley.
You're welcome.
That's King 5 News at 11. Please join Joyce Taylor and Dennis Bounds for King 5 Morning News from 5 to 7.
We'll see you again next week, and have a good week, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Stay in touch. Continuous morning news from 5 till 9 on King News Talk 1090 AM.